Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about our November reading wrap-up. So I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read in November. Actually, all of the books that I read in November tied into my 2023 Thanksgiving dinner readathon. So if you want to learn more about that, you can check out some of my other videos. But each one of these books met a prompt category for that readathon. So the first book that I read in November was Husband Auditions by Angela Ruth Strong. I gave this one 3 stars. I liked it at the beginning and it was really cute at the beginning, but I felt like things just kind of like dragged on really long and I was just waiting for like stuff to happen, and it was like taking forever for like the big stuff in the plot to happen, and I just felt like there was a lot of like forced humor in it, so I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either, so it gets like 3 stars because I was like, it's average, it's 3 stars. Also, I read it at the beginning of November, and now a month later I don't remember that much about it except for like a couple things, so I didn't find it that memorable. So 3 stars for that one. The next book that I read was Second Impressions by Basham. I gave it 4 stars. It was so cute. I really liked it. It was pretty short. I was surprised. Like it felt more like novella than novel to me, but I think it's technically a novel. It was just really short. Maybe it is a novella and I just didn't know it. It could be. Like it felt really short to me. So that was something. The other thing is that it had like, it had kind of a shared room trope, you know, like when there is only like one room left and 2 people have to share it, which, I mean, I do like that, like I watched that trope in like, you know, rom-com kind of movies, like that's really, like that's a trope that happens a lot. I don't really love it in Christian fiction though, because like, I don't know, I just feel like there are ways you could like not have to handle that. But then again, like though Basham usually writes Christian fiction, I think that this one was more along the lines of clean fiction than Christian fiction, so I guess it was okay. But yeah, it was cute, and so I gave it 4 stars. Like I didn't absolutely love it, but I did like it, so I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read was The Legacy of Longdale Manor by Carrie Turansky. And I did absolutely love this book so much. I gave it fully 5 stars. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And this is a book that I had been wanting to read for a long time. Like since I first saw it on NetGalley, I've been wanting to read it. And so I finally got my hands on it from the library, and it was just so good. Like it lived up to all of my expectations, which I was really happy about, because you know sometimes when you like want to read a book like from way before it comes out, and then when it finally comes out and you finally get your hands on it, then it doesn't live up to your expectations, and that's kind of disappointing. But this one totally lived up to and surpassed all of my expectations. It is a dual timeline, and I absolutely loved both timelines. I loved all of the characters. It had good spiritual themes in it. Like it was just, yeah, it was really, really good. I started, which on my, like, I keep notes in my phone, which I keep on a note in my phone, I record all the books I read throughout the year. It's basically like my reading journal, except it's just a list month by month of the books I read. And the ones that are in the running for like best book of the year, I put a star next to. And then at the end of the year, I go back and I sort them and I figure out what my top 10 are. So yeah, this one got a star next to it. It will definitely be in my top 10, which will be at the end of this month. Like, it was really, really good. Loved it so much. Definitely 5 stars. The next book that I read was To Spark a Match by Turano. And this is a book that I pre-ordered months ago, and it came out in November, and I was so excited for it because I absolutely loved the first book in the series, which the first book in the series is A Match in the Making, which I had won in a giveaway, and it was my first Turano book, and I loved it so much, and I gave it 5 stars. So like, after that book, it was so good that I was really excited for this one. Okay, I'm just gonna put that back. And this one, I only gave 4 stars. I didn't like it as much as A Match in the Making, but I still really, really loved it. I mean, Adelaide and Gideon were so great. I loved Gideon. I thought he was a great, great character. Adelaide, and this is the reason that I gave it 4 stars, is that Adelaide, I felt, was a little over the top in the beginning. Because one of her, like, character traits is that she's really accident prone. Like, a lot of stuff happens to her, and that's something that, you know, she was introduced as a side character in the first book, and it was she was kind of a character that, you know, a lot of stuff happened to, and it, you know, she had a lot of mishaps, accidents, clumsiness. And so I was expecting that in this book, but I just felt like in the first part of the book, that's like probably the first third of the book, that's all we saw of her. Like, every time we saw her, she was getting into a mishap. And it wasn't until, like, the later second half-ish that we actually saw more of her character. And so that got me a little bit, because I was like, okay, a lot of these mishaps are really, really overdone, and they're just to, like, prove how clumsy she is. And I was like, but that's not her whole character. She is not just an accident waiting to happen. You know, she has other character traits, and we didn't really necessarily see a lot of those other character traits until later on in the novel. Later on in the novel, she started to become a more rounded character, and I felt like we needed to see that roundness. Since she was the main character, we should have been seeing more of that roundness from the beginning, because it wasn't necessarily like, it wasn't a character roundness that came from character growth. You know, when you have traits that come out from your character growth, yes, we're going to see that later on, but I felt like a lot of the characteristics and the roundness of her character that didn't happen from her character growth, we still didn't see right away, because it just felt like we were putting a lot of focus on the clumsiness when we should have been seeing the clumsiness and the other character traits as well. So that's the reason that I gave it 4 stars instead of 5. I just didn't love it as much as the first novel. I just felt like her clumsiness was a little over the top. But I did love Gideon, and I absolutely loved the side characters in this book. I don't remember all of their names, but there's like 2 elderly gentlemen, and there's like also a more elderly lady. Her name is Aunt something, and I feel like Vernon and Leopold. Yeah, Vernon and Leopold are the elderly gentlemen, and then Aunt something was the elderly lady. They were a lot of fun. I especially love Vernon and Leopold. Like, I know they're just like the elderly side characters, but I would totally be happy if they had their own novel, like, just of their adventures. Like, I'd totally read that. I absolutely loved them. But yeah, so I gave that one 4 stars. The next book that I read was Autumn by the Sea by Melissa Tagg. And this is one, I mentioned this in my readathon TBR video. I had read a Melissa Tagg video. I had read a Melissa Tagg book before, and I didn't love it, but it was also like a NFL player trope, and I don't really like the pro sports player tropes, so I was excited to give her books a try again. And I have to say, I really enjoyed Autumn by the Sea. I gave it 4 stars, and I just enjoyed the whole storyline. I enjoyed the spiritual aspects to it. I felt like it had great spiritual aspects, a great storyline, a nice romance. I enjoyed the side characters. I especially enjoyed the grandmother character who is looking for her granddaughter. And I want to read the next 2 books in the series, which that's kind of like, it's a little unfortunate, because after I read this one, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to read the next 2 books in the series. And I thought, well, I'll read them in December after my readathon is over. So at the beginning of December, just a few days ago, I went to look for them, but my library does not have them in print or digital copy. And so I was like, oh, I can't get them in the library. And then so I looked for them on Pango Books and Thrift Books, and they're not on there either. So if I read them, I have to buy them, and I have to pay like full price for them. And I was like, it's just not in my budget right now. I don't know when it will be in my budget, but I don't have budget for full price books right now. So I was like, well, I can't read them in December or in the foreseeable future. I don't know when I'll have the budget for that. when I do, I will get them and read them, but it's going to be a while. So that's a little disappointing because I wanted to continue the series, but oh well. Life happens. So I gave Autumn by the Sea 4 stars, and I do look forward to continuing the series when it is in my budget to do so. The next book that I read is Tried and True by Mary Connealy, and like Melissa Tagg, this is another one that I had read a Mary Connealy book before, and I just really didn't love it. And this one doesn't have to do with tropes or anything. I just felt like it was kind of like really over the top and cheesy, and I was like, yeah, I don't like it. But I wanted to give her another try. So I read Tried and True, and I gave it 3 stars. It was cute, but I didn't love it. It did have good spiritual themes, so I liked that. The couple was nice. I liked Kylie. I thought she was a good character. I liked Aaron. That's his name. I thought he was fine. I just thought it was like only okay. There was nothing that really jumped out of it that I loved it. I did decide that I would give the rest of the series a try, though, so that's a mark in its favor. With the other Mary Connealy book I read, I didn't even try to read the rest of the series because I really didn't like it. But this one, even though I just felt like it was average, I am giving the rest of the series a try, so that is a step up. So she did improve herself, in my opinion. So the next one that I read is the Farmer's Bride collection, which I actually just read 1 story out of here to complete my Set on a Farm prompt. The story that I read was The Tie That Binds by Susan K. Downs, which I gave 3 stars to this story. It was really, really cute. It's about like it's about like a single woman who adopts a little girl from an orphan train and a single man who adopts a little boy. But the little girl and the little boy are brother and sister. And so these 2 single people are like, you know, they have to let the brother and sister see each other and stuff. And so the prompt, the ad, says that, it says that the kids, like, kind of, it made it seem to me like the kids were kind of going to scheme to get the adults together. But I think I must have just misread it because I don't think there was really any scheming going on. It was just that the kids wanted to see each other a lot, so the parents were kind of thrown together a lot. I gave it 3 stars simply because the whole plot of it was very, very rushed. I mean, it is a short story in a collection, but I felt like the plot was more suited to a full-length novel. I think it would make a really, really great full-length novel, but I feel like just the way that the author tried to force this very potential plot into a small short story, it just didn't work very well. I don't think the plot is made for a short story. I think it's made for a full-length novel. And so I only gave it 3 stars because I just felt like a lot of stuff was missing. Like, it was just too rushed. Like, it needed fleshing out. So I just felt like it wasn't the right plot for a short story, in my opinion. So I only gave it 3 stars for that. But it was cute. It really, really needed to be fleshed out. It just was missing a lot plot-wise. Anyway, the next book I read was Beauty Among Ruins by, I'm about to butcher her name and I apologize for that, Janelle Ciesielski. I'm going to go with that. It's probably wrong. But yeah. So this one I technically finished on December 1st. It was part of my November readathon, and I was totally on track to finish it in November, but then at the end of November, in the last couple of days, I got sick with a fever, and I don't know about y'all, but I cannot read when I have a fever because for me, fevers bring brain fog, and the brain fog is just so bad, I can't concentrate on what I'm reading. Like, I can read a page and have no idea what I just read. And so I don't really read when I have fevers because I can't compute it because of brain fog. So I missed like a whole day of reading because of that. And so if I would have had that day of reading, I would have finished this book in November. But because I had a fever and I couldn't read, I ended up just finishing it on December 1st. But I'm still including it in my November wrap-up. I really, really enjoyed Beauty Among Ruins. It's kind of like a World War I Beauty and the Beast retelling. I used it as my enemies to lovers prompt on my readathon. And it was just really, really good. I gave it 4 stars. And the only reason that I gave it 4 stars instead of 5 was because I felt like they had some missed opportunities, like spiritual-wise. And I'll explain that. So there's a point, like the main guy, he's a Scottish landowner, I don't know. And he opens up his estate to be a hospital, a convalescence home for wounded soldiers. And the thing is that his estate is failing. He's running out of money because his father, the former, I think technically they're earls, so I'm just going to call them an earl because I can't pronounce laird. The former earl just wasted a bunch of money. And so he's running out of money, and he's trying to figure out a way to like keep his estate and support his family and take care of these soldiers. And he says, like, towards the beginning of the book, like, he thinks or he says, like, that God has just abandoned him and that God is not, taking care of things, that he has to shoulder the load. So it makes it very clear that he feels abandoned by God and that he feels like he has to shoulder the load by himself, that he doesn't think that God is a loving God. And so I expected towards the end of the novel for like that to come like full circle, for him to realize that God is in control of everything and that, he doesn't have to handle the load by himself. As the plot resolved, I expected him to have that spiritual lesson, but it never talks about it again. Like, he never has any sort of spiritual epiphany about God being the one in charge and being the one taking the load. So I felt like it was a real missed opportunity there, especially because I felt like that having that comment in the beginning of the plot, to me, was setting it up to be resolved later. And so I felt like if you're not gonna have a character have that spiritual epiphany, then don't mention it as a problem in the beginning of the plot. Like, when you're writing and when you're setting up a plot, you're kind of like setting up puzzle pieces, and you have to have all the puzzle pieces to finish the puzzle. And I felt like, you should be intentional, about the puzzle pieces that you're putting in there so that they all fit at the end. And I felt like that was a puzzle piece that was put in there intentionally, but then not added to the end of the puzzle, if that makes sense. Because, I was like, okay, if you're not going to mention it at the end as a resolution, then you don't need to mention it at the beginning. Like, you should have just left it out then. Because when you put it in at the beginning and then you don't resolve it at the end, you don't have that epiphany at the end, it's almost like you've lost the follow-through, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I just felt like it was a missed opportunity and the ball was dropped on that one. So I only gave it 4 stars instead of 5. But yeah. Those were all of the books that I read in November, 8 of them, I believe. And the next video that you will be seeing from me will probably be my end of the year top 10 books. I'm really excited to do that one. I will see you then. Have a great day.